Okay.
Untuk up. Waste management.
Okay, you can see my screen, isn't it? Can you all
Yes.
see my screen? Yeah, okay.
Yeah.
Okay, so let's begin. In the last session, I think I shared the course outline, but we have some few more additions. As I was enlightened, your course is a little bit different from the one I had prepared earlier on. So I added a little bit more content. As you can see, topic 2 is a little bit new. So for today, because on Monday I'd already prepared everyone that would be discussing importation. In specific, we had started with the customs importation procedures. Okay, let me just minimize that. Yeah, custom import procedures is what we are supposed to be tackling today. So we'll just start with that. And that is topic 3, according to our course outline. So we'll be jumping topic 2, but in the next class, I'll come back to that. So for now, let's just move to topic 3. I'll also share these notes with you. I hope everyone can see my screen clearly. Anybody
Yes,
having an issue
I
with
can see it.
the screen visibility? Let me assume no one is having an issue with the screen visibility. So the objectives of this course would include defining the key terms related to importation process of goods. Let me mute everyone's microphone so that we can have one session. Okay, I think I've already muted everybody. Yeah. Anyone having an issue with connection? Okay, let's proceed. So for today, I've said we'll be having objectives. The objectives, 1, defining the key terms related to importation process of goods, which we shall see some of these key terms. What are they? What are their definitions? So that we'll be familiar with such terms when you hear them maybe later on in this unit or in other parts of the course. Number 2, understand legal framework governing importation of goods, including temporary importation. Number 3, understand the importation process of consignment into partner states. The importation process of consignments into partner states. Number 3, explain when different types of goods are deemed to be entered. When are goods deemed to be entered? We'll also understand what we mean even by being entered and all that. Then the next objective, we shall be able to state details found in a single administrative document. That is, in other terms, Form C17B. Let me admit these other individuals. I think there are other 2 more who are waiting to be admitted. Okay. Let's proceed. I think Innocent is having a little bit of network issues. So, lastly, identify and explain supporting documents to entry declarations. We'll be able to see what are some of these supporting documents, things to do with invoice, IDF, import declaration forms, among other supporting documents. We're just muting the other person. So let's proceed to the next. After the objectives, we'll move and try to discuss arrival and report for aircraft and vessels. This is provided for under section 21 to 28 of East African Community Customs Management Act of 2004. It has been revised, and currently I think we have a revised edition of the same act. I think you can get a copy of it online. For those who also have hard copies, it's better that way so that can at least be referring to it whenever we refer to certain sections within the act. So arrival and report of aircraft and vessels is found within section 21 to 28. I think I have a copy here on my screen. Let me see if I can be able to get a copy. Yeah, let me get a 2012 version. EACCMA, if you want to get a copy online, then I think we can go with this. Are you able to see clearly what I'm doing?
Yes.
So the East African Community Customs Management Act of 2004 and subsidiary legislations revised edition 2012. 2012. So let me go ahead to download it. Okay, I have my hard copy there. Now, when I open my hard copy, I've said it's from section 21 to 28, isn't it? So 21 to 28, arrival and report of aircraft and vessels. 21, procedure on arrival. 22, place of mooring. 23, restrictions on boarding vessels before proper officer. Report. Master to answer questions. 26, goods in transit shed deemed to be in aircraft or vessel. Goods reported to be unloaded. Master of wreck, etc. to report. So those are the particular sections we'll be discussing in detail within our presentation of today. I think maybe if you have your time later on, you can now go into this particular section and see whatever they address. But in brief, this is what is contained. So procedure on arrival. On arrival, any person in charge of any aircraft, vessel, vehicle, arriving in East African Community Partner States must comply with the following procedures. 1, report to customs port. 2, come to the proper place provided for mooring or loading. Oh, sorry, I think I moved that. 3, answer fully and immediately all questions put to him or her by the proper officer. Then 4, produce all such documents. Produce all such documents in his or her custody as a proper officer may require. Next point, park or dock or stop the means of conveyance at the station appointed by the boarding or at the station appointed for boarding. Not to depart therefrom until authorized by the proper officer. And lastly, not to return after departure within the partner states except in accordance with the act or with the permissions of the proper officer. So let me just go back to the first step, so that if there's anyone with an issue, so first of all, I've said report to customs port. Once he has reported to customs port, come to the proper place provided for mooring or unloading. This would be the area designated where the ship can be able to dock, and therefore proper unloading can also take place at the same place. So once he has come to that proper place, he'll be able to answer fully and immediately all questions put to him or her by the proper officer, this being the customs officer. Then next, you'll be required to produce all such documents or documents in his or her custody as per the proper officer or as per the requirements of the proper officer. I think this, okay. Let me mute that mic. Okay. So, are there any questions regarding these particular procedures? The procedures on arrival. Anyone with the questions regarding procedures on arrival? I think they are clear, isn't it? These 7 steps are very clear in that they are simple to understand. So once that has been done, we can proceed to boarding and rummaging. On boarding and rummaging, an officer may, in the course of his or her duty, board and search any aircraft or vessel within a partner state. 2, he or she may examine, look up, seal, mark, or otherwise secure any goods on such aircraft or vessel. So he can, 1, examine, he can look up, he can seal to prevent maybe further interference, he can mark or otherwise secure any goods on such aircraft or vessel. Number 3, for the purpose of examination or security of any goods, such officer may require such goods to be unloaded or removed at the expense of the master of such aircraft or vessel. So if there's any requirement by the officer that these goods move to maybe a secure location where this officer can be able to examine these goods further, then that will be done at the expense of who? The master of the aircraft or vessel. Then next point, an officer may use reasonable force to obtain access to any part of the aircraft or vessel, to any container. And this should be reasonable force. All together. Yeah, reasonable force, I think, would make the individuals who may want to abuse this, isn't it? And therefore, reasonable force should be force that, depending with the circumstance or depending with the particular occasion, should not go beyond certain limits, and should be, in certain scenarios, we may be dealing with goods that are maybe sensitive, goods that can easily get destroyed, goods that are fragile. So therefore, an officer needs to use reasonable force to obtain access to any part of the aircraft or vessel. The next point, an officer boarding any vessel may remain thereon for such time as he or she may consider necessary, and shall be facilitated with food and accommodation as necessary. in that while he's on board of this vessel, performing his duty as provided for by the Act, then he may be provided with food and accommodation when necessary. Then, where on the search any goods are found in relation to which any offense under this act has been committed, such goods shall be liable to forfeiture. What do I mean by liable to forfeiture? The owners will lose the right to those particular commodities, and therefore they'll be transferred to the custody of customs. So therefore, whereas in the search, such goods are found, then the goods shall be liable to forfeiture. So boarding and rummaging is provided for according to section 23, subsection 1. Who are the persons who may first board a vessel before the proper officer? So let's move to, let me try and show you what section 23, subsection 1 has. Okay. Let's just scroll down. Let me just control find 21. Okay, it was 23. Oh, sorry for that. Let me move down. Okay, 23. You can see 23 clearly states here, a person except the port pilot, the health officer, or any other public officer in the exercise of his or her duties and duly authorized shall not, save with the permissions of the proper officer, board any vessel before the proper officer. So these are the individuals who are allowed to board the vessel before the proper officer. That is the port pilot, health officer, and any other public officer in the exercise of his or her duty and duly authorized. So this, the same will apply to the notes. Let me just, I think some people are not in that. The health officer, 1. Port pilot, 2. And any other public officer in exercise of his or her duties and is duly authorized. So these 3 categories of individuals can access the vessel before the proper officer even does. Okay, let's move on. Stores. Want to understand what the term stores means and what are stores, isn't it? So Regulation 23 of East African Community Regulation 2010 let me also get you a copy of the regulation so that you are familiar with the regulation. Okay. If you want to get a copy of the regulation, EACC CMAR, I think it's 2010. Okay. I think this is the copy. No, this is the act. Sorry for that. EACCMR. Okay, here it is. I think you can use this copy. Regulation. So the part we were talking about was 23. Regulation 23, as you can see from here. So let's move to Regulation 23. Stores to be produced. You can see that clearly. It's talking about stores to be produced. So let's just scroll down to 23. Let me use control find. 23. Stores to be produced. It clearly states that all stores which are required for the use of crew and passengers of an aircraft or vessels during its stay in port shall, on request, be produced separately to the proper officer, who may either approve the quantity produced or require a portion or the whole of the stores to be replaced under seal. Let me read that again for you. All stores which are required for the use of crew and passengers. Note that all stores, in this case, when you are referring to stores, are all stores that are required for the use of who? The crew and the passengers of an aircraft or vessels during its stay at the port shall on request be produced separately to the proper officer. Because we know these items are not supposed to be dutiable. Therefore, the officer needs to be confirming the quantities, to be confirming them. And once he has confirmed, then he can either approve the quantity produced or required in portions as a whole to be placed under seal, so that they may not even be imported into the country once they have been determined and quantified. So let's move on to our Excel. So the Excel Regulation 23 of East African Regulation 2010, all stores which are required for the use of the crew and passengers of an aircraft or vessels during its stay in the port shall, on request, be produced separately to a proper officer, who may either approve the quantity produced or require a portion or the whole of the stores to be placed under seal, as we've read it from the regulation. Regulation 24 of EAC Regulation 2010, allowance of duty-free stores. Allowance of duty-free stores. Let's move back to the act, to the regulation. Allowance of stores to the crew, duty-free, in that they're not supposed to be dutiable. So a master, officer, or member of the crew of any vessel in a port or on coastwise passage to another port in the community may be permitted by the proper officer to retain in his or her possession or to be issued with for his or her personal use an allowance of duty-free stores in accordance with the scale or table 1 below. So these are the duty-free stores. 1, cigarettes and tobacco in any form. Portable spirits, the importation of which is not prohibited. Wines or beer. So under cigarettes, you'd have 200 cigarettes or 200 grams of tobacco in any form. Under portable spirits, it'd be allowed 750 ml. Then wine and beers, he or she may be allowed 3 liters of either wine or beer. The same has been captured within the PowerPoint. So I think this is easily discernible and you can easily understand what we mean by Regulation 24 of the East African Community Customs Management Regulation of 2010. So we've already understood what stores are, isn't it? Stores constitute those consignments that are meant to be used by the crew or passengers within the aircraft or vessel, and therefore the officer may need to assess and determine and even put them under seal. Then still there are parts of the stores which can be allowed an allowance of duty-free, in that these individuals can use them within the partner states without having paid duty on them. Okay. So duty-free allowance of stores to crew. So of all their store, they can only take this. Are you clear? Okay, let's read some part of so that we can understand it in full. The allowance provided for in sub-regulation 1 may be issued in respect of every 8 days or part of days during the vessel's stay in the port. For cigarettes and tobacco in any form, in respect of every 4 days or part of days for alcohol and liquor. So all this is read together with this is the part. I think that you can read on your own time and understand more in depth how this duty-free allowance of stores is accorded to crews and passengers and even owners of vessels. So that said, let's move back to, let me mute, I can hear somebody, let's mute them. Okay. And if you are on, please ensure your video is on. I can see several people, their videos are not on, so we don't know whether they are attending or they have left their phones to attend on their behalf. Ensure your video is up, please. Waluka, your video is down. Vigilance. Aisha. David. Helen. You will need to confirm that you attended the class. So if I submit a video that doesn't have your face in it, then it would be a lie to say that you attended the class. Okay. Let's proceed. I hope they'll turn on their video. Vigilance and Waluka, please turn on your video. So let's proceed while they work on that. So the next thing we'll talk about is arrival by sea or by air. As we understand, how do items arrive by air? They arrive by aircraft, isn't it? That is planes. So consignments can arrive by air, or they can also arrive by sea. So when consignments arrive by air and also arrive by sea, all this is provided for under Section 24 of East African Community Customs Management Act, which states, the master or agent of every aircraft or vessel, whether laden or in ballast, shall, except where otherwise provided in any regulation, make a report on a prescribed form, the report being manifest, to the proper officer at any port or other place especially allowed by the proper officer of an aircraft or vessel of its cargo or stores, and of any package for which there is no bill of lading as follows. As follows. Let me again repeat that because there are people whom their audios were up. What I meant is that put the video on, not audio. Because if you put the audio up, then most likely we'll be hearing from numerous individuals. So Section 24 again states that the master or agent of every aircraft or vessel whether laden or in ballast, shall, except where otherwise provided in any regulation, make a report on a prescribed form, that's a manifest, to the proper officer at any port or other place especially allowed by the proper officer of an aircraft or vessel, of its cargo or stores, and of any package for which there is no bill of lading as follows. So I hope these two terms do not complicate things. Whether laden or ballast. Laden is when it's completely full. Ballast is when it has no consignments, but still there would be some consignments that maybe the individual considered were not supposed to be declared. Maybe the ship stores, items that were meant to be consumed by the crew or passengers of that aircraft. So if it's laden, we may have consignments that are meant maybe to be imported into our country or into a member state. And therefore, all that would constitute the following. So you need to declare as follows. In the case of a vessel, not less than 24 hours before arrival from a foreign port. Number two, in the case of an aircraft, immediately after takeoff from a foreign port designated to a port in a partner state. So these 2 points are read together with this section. And so to read it incomplete, the master or agent of every aircraft or vessel, whether laden or ballast, shall, except where otherwise provided for in the regulation, make a report on a prescribed form being the manifest to the proper officer at any port of other place, especially allowed by the proper officer of an aircraft or a vessel, of its cargo or stores, and of any package for which there is no bill of lading as follows. So you will make this particular report in the case of a vessel not less than 24 hours before arrival from a foreign port. So within 24 hours before arrival, you'll have made this particular report. Then in the case of an aircraft, immediately after takeoff from a foreign port designated to a port of in a partner state. So as we take off, we make that report in a prescribed form known as what? Manifest. So we've already understood what section 24 is saying of ESCMA. So let's move on. Master to answer questions. The following are questions that the master of the vessel will answer. Section 25 of East African Community Customs Management Act of 2004 provides that master should answer questions fully and immediately all questions asked by the proper officer. Then master should produce all books and documents that the proper officer may require. So guys, I think our time for the first session is nearly up. I'm being notified that it's less than a minute. So I think we will go for the break. Then again, come back for the 30-minute session. Are there any questions before we proceed to the break?